Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Don't miss out on our comic book creator interviews, including our monthly Chichester chats with comic book legend DG Chichester, superhero movie brackets in our search for the worst comic book movie of all time, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/CapesandLunatics. Hope to see you there.
Avast me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. Arg. I be your captain, Charlie, the Professoresser, and with me as always is me skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Welcome back, Mozz. In a world of capes and lunatics, gods and monsters, there are those who still fight against the Galactic Empire. One such man is Obi-Wan, and this is his story.
Despite his best efforts. Sorry.
Despite his best efforts, yes. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Season 1, Part 4. Obi-Wan Kenobi plots a daring mission into enemy territory. Our director this week is Deborah Chow. Our writers are, of course, Joby Harold and Hannah Freeman, based on the characters based on Star Wars by George Lucas. And I just want to see who else gets credits on this. That's it, just two written bys.
Okay.
But yeah, but that's the story. Mozz, this story, it opens up in the back to tank.
Yeah.
Two great warriors dipped in Bacta, joined by that link. And
what did he have, like second degree burns on one arm?
Oh yeah. Well, definitely Anakin.
I guess it was more of the emotional damage that was caused there.
Well, yeah, and of course you absolutely see Kenobi freak out once he realizes that whether in the shared Bacta tank or whether he's in the Bacta tank, that allows Vader to reach out to him, and he sees Vader again, and he feels Vader again.
So you think it wasn't just like a shot saying like, oh, he's in there at the same time? You think he felt Vader feeling him in that moment?
I do think that there is that feeling of his presence,
Interesting.
In fact, I think that it's also just, in fact, I've heard the statement that that's why he had to get out. Because he realized if he stayed in there, Vader's going to see where he is.
I just thought he was having a bad dream. Like, a man in that situation is prone to have happen to him,
I mean, it's possible that that's it.
Yeah.
It's possible that it was just a horrible, horrible dream, as they say. But, I don't know, man. It seems to me, because you remember, like, the last time that when I'm forgetting what happened, but when we see Anakin's eyes open in the last episode, and you get the impression that he senses Kenobi, that he knows that Kenobi's active again. So, because that's the thing, the Force, it's a river, and every time you touch it, it sends ripples out. And if you are an incredibly powerful and sensitive Force user like Anakin Skywalker, you notice that. That is why, as they say, that is why Obi-Wan has tried not to use the Force.
That's probably why he didn't know that Vader was still alive, because he couldn't feel him. Now, did Vader obviously knew Obi-Wan was alive?
Yes, because he is on the most wanted list of Jedi we want to capture.
No, I think what I meant to say was that he knew where he was. that he could feel him with the Force once he started using it.
Yeah. Once he used the Force, then yes. Then Vader could sense him. Vader knew right where he was. And Vader could, well, maybe not find him per se, but certainly track him down. Or at least get a sense of where he's at. And, you know, that is what, and again, that's what I think scares Obi-Wan here. Because, of course, Obi-Wan, this was very traumatic for Obi-Wan. You know, in the last episode, he gets dragged through the fire by Anakin, by Darth Vader. And, you know, I think that this was his worst nightmare. And, you know, I think on some level, I will wager that he feels he deserves it. You know, and I think that's the real hard part for him, is he knows that, you know, yes, Anakin betrayed the Jedi, but at the same time, maybe had he been a better teacher, you know, Anakin might not have turned to the dark side. And, you know, that's always the thing, you know, like Uncle Owen says, like you trained his father, you know. Oh, Tristan says hola. Yes. But you know but that's the thing. It is this reality that
I wonder if he's ever considered that is the natural course of the universe, that it was supposed to happen, and all he did was facilitate whatever his role was. You know, he might not see the bigger picture and see what role it may have served, but you know, perhaps the world needed a Darth Vader to come show us who we truly are so we can learn to be better, kind of thing.
Well, you know, I've always, and this is one of my many takes, is that, you know, when you say Anakin is going to bring balance to the Force, when he is the chosen one to bring balance to the Force, the biggest presumption that the Jedi make in that is that means that they win, that they are balanced, the balanced Force. But in truth, they're not balanced. They're not any more balanced than anyone else, because their whole purpose is to manipulate the Force for their own purposes, their own ends. And a balanced Force would not be always pushed and pulled and prodded for any end. It is simply about being in tune with the Force and letting the Force flow through you and letting that be a means of communication throughout the universe.
It's almost like being in service to the Force rather than bending the Force to your will.
Exactly. And that is what the point is that you can bend the Force to your will just fine, but that is not balance.
It's
and if
not
you
in
want
service of the flow.
Exactly. And this is why I say, you know, this is why arguably Anakin does bring balance to the Force. Because after he kills the Jedi, 20 years later, he kills the last Sith. At least tries to, you know, and that's the idea, is that, you know, once you can get rid of these Jedi and Sith, then maybe the Force can be in balance. And maybe we can find our own path then. At least that's one theory. I don't know.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it too, because I made it up. But you have this. And
I also think the Bacta tank is interesting because rehearsing those memories again in his mind probably triggered his familiarity with the Force again, which he needed.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and that is part of his journey on this. Is he is coming through this from the very start, where he is not using the Force at all, and then like at most he's just being very timid. In fact, we even see him like try to move something with the Force, and it's like he really can't anymore. It's like he doesn't have the control of it, and he's probably afraid to really, you know, try to use the Force, because again, that's going to make him a target. But because I do believe that he does see in that vision, which is why I do think that there is that connection. I think he sees the fortress in there, doesn't he?
I don't know.
I'm trying to remember how they knew that Leia was at the fortress. Anyway, but they do realize that Leia is at the fortress, that Leia was taken. And it's a very interesting thing. And I think that there's this aspect of the story that's playing a little fast and loose with what the protocols are. Because
Okay.
Because you do see Leia still saying, "I am a princess of Alderaan."
Oh,
Okay. My father is a senator. And this whole, which I don't understand how the daughter of a senator is a princess, but you know what? The Queen Amidala, it was an elected position too, so we don't really know how the royals work in the Star Wars universe or the Star Wars galaxy, as it were.
I thought she was just like a little kid who was told she's a princess, like she lived in the governor's mansion. And so as a kid, oh, you're a little princess. This is our little castle. And she's just, she's 5 or,
Yeah. Well, no, because I think
as smart as she is, she's also 5.
Yes. But I do think she actually does have a royal title in there somewhere.
Probably.
For some reason. Like I said, like Queen Amidala,
Yeah.
And technically, she is the daughter of Queen Amidala, so maybe that makes her a princess. Except she doesn't know that. That's the thing. It's a very interesting.
Although, when third sister tries to read her mind, she has a tremendously difficult time trying to break through her barrier. If she is so adept that she's able to keep someone like the third sister out of her mind, might she not also be adept enough to read other people's minds? And if so, she must know who she really is and who her parents are, no? Someone around her, if not Obi-Wan. Well, she hasn't read his mind about other things, so maybe not.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We don't know that she's looking for that,
Oh, that's
she knows she's adopted, but she doesn't. It's sort of like, she may not even know that her parents know who her birth parents are, So it's like,
but they couldn't have, in passing, have had a thought that she picked up on.
Yeah, it's a question, and actually, now that you mentioned it, I think she does mention to Obi-Wan, did you know did you know her?
Yeah.
So she knows.
Right. If she was able to pick those things up in that moment, she would have, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and we do know that she says in Return of the Jedi that, she has these memories of her mother, that she had that just an image in her head. But, she doesn't really remember where she has it from, but she just knows there was this image. So it's possible that she has pieced that together over the years and it became a memory to her. But in this moment, like you say, she resists the third sister, and the third sister is really trying everything here. And honestly, I just don't think she's doing that well as an interrogator.
No.
Especially when you go to, well, I guess we'll torture the little girl.
Yeah, it's like children have a way of operating on a completely different system than you. Nothing you say makes any sense. They're in a whole different frame of reference, and you can't. And then the na boo boo, it gets to you after a couple of times. You're like, why does this not work?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. But she tries several things. She tries connecting her with her over the droid. She tries, threatening her and, trying to make her afraid. But, like I said, she is a princess of Alderaan, She knows she's got rights. Even in the Empire, she's got rights. And, so she is, how much she really has rights is debatable, but, she's going to say she wants to talk to her lawyer,
Yeah, she understands somehow that she has leverage. That they can't they need her to decide to do something. They need her to choose to do something. So she has the power there. They can't force it out of her.
Mm-hmm. And that's the reality of it. Because it's not like she knows that they want to, she may not know that they want, because she may not realize that she's there as bait, but she also knows that they're not just trying to kill her, because otherwise they would have.
Right. My thought was that she was thinking that they just wanted the location of the path.
Yeah, but she wouldn't necessarily know that. She wouldn't know that when they kidnapped her the first time.
Well,
that's the thing. And so she knows that's probably, and even though that's what they want now, quite frankly, how much she even knows about the path is she may not really honestly know much about it other than, yeah, we were at the house. You saw the house. You went to the house.
Yeah.
That's what I knew. You burnt down the house.
No. They did say that there were other houses just like this. They didn't tell me where, but they did say there were other ones. Is that good?
Well, yeah. But, yeah, which everyone knows, I mean, that's the thing. It's like,
that's the best you can do.
That's how houses work, is they have more than one. Yeah, so it's interesting. We do see that, Obi-Wan wants to go get Leia, break in and get Leia. And we meet the head of the now, is that guy, I don't know. Did you see Rogue One?
No.
You didn't? Okay. Cause there's a character in that who is played by, what's his name? He's the guy he's got the one bad eye. I'm trying to remember the actor's name.
Forrest Whitaker?
Forrest Whitaker, yeah. So there's a character played by Forrest Whitaker in Rogue One, who I wonder if this is supposed to be that character, but 10 years earlier, could be. But, and he is not having any of Obi-Wan's foolishness and does not feel that it's worth their time to go get Leia. Since obviously.
The one played by Ice-T's son.
Yeah.
Ice Cube's son. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, that would be Ice Cube's son, not Ice-T.
Right.
Yes. But, cause I mean, the reality is if they don't go to break Leia out, the reality is they probably are going to have to return Leia home eventually because, this is a big mess that the third sister caused. So if she had caught Kenobi, it might be worth it.
Right.
But without Kenobi, it's actually a real mess because it's like you just kidnapped a senator's child.
Own senator's child.
Yeah,
What
it's
message does that send to the rest of your?
Yeah,
lords?
I mean, that's the thing. Is like fascism only works if you get enough people to stand with your fascism. But if you start chopping the heads off of the snakes around you, suddenly all those snakes say, hey, you know what? That could have been my head. And, you don't want to be in that situation. So
yeah,
I do think the third sister took a big risk. And I think that is the problem. But of course, Obi-Wan, he has to go get her. He can't take that chance. And, we have the turncoat, Imperial. And I find her to be a really fascinating character.
Yeah.
Especially because, of course, when they do get confronted by the third sister, she immediately goes, well, of course I'm a spy. Of course I'm spying for the Empire. I've infiltrated their ranks. I got in there and this is what we're doing, And
the likeliest story in the world.
Well, but but that of course is one of the great jokes about this is that as advanced as Star Wars is, they have really primitive communications technologies. It's like,
little microphones.
Yeah, with not only the microphones, but just the fact that, they don't have central databases.
Yeah.
There's no security on anything. It's, everything is just press button. And I guess it makes sense on some level if you are a very primitive society that has technology like this.
Maybe the argument is certain pivotal points that we have seen in our history, they never got to see in their histories. And technology itself evolved in a very different way. And maybe certain little things like, I don't know, transistors or whatever were never invented. And it led technology down a path of necessity that was very different than ours went down. And they developed technology around it that they're completely blind to some of the dynamics that we have available to us. I could see that.
And for what it's worth, I think their technology has an almost organic feel to it. In the idea that all of the technology that, and even the way the droids are, how they do have this sentience to them, even the most basic droids, they have this sentient, they have this operational structure to them that,
what do you think that's based on then?
Well,
it doesn't seem like it's AI. It seems like it's something much more elemental, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, it's it is a science fantasy story, and I think that
and you can certainly afford them that. I would just love to know the mechanisms that they intend.
Well, I imagine it's something like a golem,
like a golem. Oh,
a golem. That it's sort of like when they're building these things, there's a certain certain process by which when the droids awaken, they have a sense of self. The idea, there was a friend I knew back many years ago, and he used to say that basically the way that the real trick to AI wasn't to have an incredibly complex program, but to have just a very, very simple program and let the program learn for itself. And which is something that they work on too in AI from time to time, among all the many things they do. Oh, did you hear about the Google AI that one of the engineers went a little...
I love that the story is so ripe for sensationalism. And that some people, and I think that's probably, although, I mean, it's hard not to wonder,
Yeah. Well, and, they gave the guy a leave of absence. I think the guy was just really stressed from staring into the computer.
Yeah. And more than likely, probably in feeding his conspiracy theories, released some proprietary information, or the fact that they were working on something that nobody knew about. That's what caused him to get fired, which is understandable.
Well, he didn't get fired. He's on a leave of absence.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, he just, basically it sounds like, he's on a leave of absence. He had
they're like, all right, Timmy, just sit down. You're going to have time out for a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, he's a good programmer, but he's really pushed himself to the limits this week. So that's my take on it. Yeah.
That makes sense.
I was listening and people said he was fired. It's like, no, they said he was on a leave of absence because
interesting.
They made him go on a leave of absence. But, Tristan, answer this.
Certainly understandable. But so I wonder if, like, in their universe, if you consider like quantum field theory, what if consciousness itself is a field and each point of consciousness that we are is just a perturbation in that field? So if that's the case, then what if by creating these droids, simply by the act of creating them and giving them the capability of perceiving and interacting with this field of consciousness, that they're able to tap into it and take some of it and play with it. And with that robot now just being an expression of a perturbation in this field, just like we are.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting theory, and exactly what it is what makes it an interesting story, because it's really hard to grasp exactly how it all works. But, like I say, it all works. And it's interesting that it is both highly advanced and super primitive, because
it's entirely possible that us and the robots are tapping into completely different fields of consciousness.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
That's a fascinating idea.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's always the thing. It's like, I mean, if you ever actually created a true artificial intelligence, it may not think anything like humans think. It might think in a completely random way that we don't even, we haven't really thought of as a mode of thought yet, And it doesn't mean it's more advanced. It would just be its entire motivational structure is likely going to be different, because it's actually something that has been designed to be a thinking machine rather than developing thought as a support system for everything else. It's just thinking because it was told to think. And so if you were just told to think, what would you think about? And
if that's the beginning of your evolution, where could you go? My word.
Yeah, or maybe you just don't go anywhere, because what's there to do? It's like, of what purpose is thought without survival? It's, and if you're just a box, you're pretty much set. It's like, yeah, the electricity's flowing. I'm good, you know?
Yeah, so what you're saying is that the robot apocalypse can't happen unless we strike first.
Well, of course.
If it has that necessity to survive because it has an enemy in us, or a perceived threat in us, is the only time that it could turn. That's a fascinating idea.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's usually how that plays out, too. Okay, well, let's get into the actual story here, because, you know, we find out that once again, whoever the architect for the Empire is, they just like having just open, gaping doors, you know, places, just unguarded passageways that you can just walk right in, and no one cares, no one pays attention.
Yeah,
you know, it's delightful. Someone actually made a point in this that you never see. They actually have an officer in a big billy trench coat walk past in one scene, and that is not something that they've ever had Imperials wear before. But just so they could have the later scene, they had to have. Let's establish that some people wear these big trench coats.
I would love it if later on we found out that guy was smuggling something off the base.
Yeah, exactly. You know?
That nobody actually does wear those coats.
No. Oh, that would be perfect. But yeah, we get in here. We have Obi-Wan coming up through the hole. We have our Imperial coming in through the front door. So they can meet up and figure out where Leia is, on what level. And I like when they have to do their escape, which is pretty interesting. Although, actually, what did you think about the Jedi tomb?
The Jedi? Oh, I thought that was really, really cool. And it made me think, like, maybe they're not dead?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what's weird about it. Because, like, I don't know, man, that when they had that youngling in there, that freaked me out.
Yeah.
And someone had pointed out that that's one of the younglings that we see at the that's the same actor we see at the very beginning of this series when all the younglings have to run.
Yeah, I mean, he's wearing the same outfit, so
yeah,
that means he was captured and then like frozen in this thing rather than killed on the spot there.
I guess so.
So that means he's one of the ones that made it off.
Or something. I see. That's what's
so I guess that's the story they're trying to tell. That a bunch that made it off, but even those they've been going after and getting.
Yeah. Well, you know, there was a theory that the third sister might have already been corrupted, and that she was one of the other younglings, and that she sort of like betrays him and turns him over to the Empire at that point. You know. And that was like her first catch as a member of the.
If that's true, I like it because that's diabolical. That's
delicious. You know, the fact of the matter is that as we've seen, you know, it's entirely possible a lot of these younglings resented the Jedi just in the same way Anakin did, because it's the same idea that, oh, you know, you took me from my family, you took away everything I ever had.
I hope they don't give her some sort of a weird redemption arc. Because if that's true, if she's like that, like rotten to the core right from the beginning, then I kind of think that's kind of what makes her really cool. And I hope they don't take that away from her. I hope she dies by her convictions.
Yeah, I'm sure she does. I don't think she's going to have a redemption. I don't think she needs a redemption.
Right. And I hope they don't like jam that down our throats.
As people point out, that's one of the best things about this Vader is unless you watch the Clone Wars, or not the Clone Wars, but the Rebels series, you know, you never really saw Vader when he was full on Vader and just completely just obsessed with the dark side, and, you know, and also again, feeling he is so righteous in his anger and his use of the dark side. That basically, you know, all are as the buzzing of flies to him, you know, including his own people. Because you see him with poor third sister, and he's just like, you know, and honestly, that is the scariest thing when you see Vader do the fast walk. You know, like you're used to him just being that slow Michael Myers kind of thing, but when he just suddenly he's on top of you and he's moving with the speed of a gazelle, that is got to be terrifying.
So much more menacing than if he were to float over to you, even if he did it at speed with the fluttering cape. Just the shoulder movements is so dark.
Oh yeah, because because he's a big, powerful guy, you know, and you know, especially with the new legs and arms and everything, you know, he's a giant now, and you know, that is, of course, when we do find out that the third sister actually had a backup plan, which I do think was a backup plan. I don't think that was always her plan to just, have Obi-Wan escape and then we'll follow them. I don't think that was her plan because I don't think that's a good plan.
No.
I think if you get a chance at Obi-Wan, you kill Obi-Wan.
Just in case.
Just in case, yeah. Just in case you set up a way that you can, you know, follow up on this later. But that if Obi-Wan's there, you're going to try and get Obi-Wan.
Just setting a reminder, you know.
Yeah. But the fact of the matter is like, I think that is what I think really sells about this episode is you do see Obi-Wan coming into his power, coming into his focus as a Force user and really getting back to who he was. And there's the whole thing when you get and again, just, you know, just firing lasers underwater in the glass place, and you see it, they crack the wall, and you see him just holding it, and then, you know, holding it with the Force, and then just letting it go through and flooding and directing all the water at them, just to flood them. I mean, that shows you really how powerful Obi-Wan was. And
also made me think that can't be up to standard. That can't be up to code, that window. I mean, it's under a tremendous amount of pressure. And, like, this is a fortress, right? This is like a tactical location. You got to have something stronger than that's going to break with a laser beam.
Well, but at the same time, I don't think they were planning on shooting laser beams in there. You know, I mean, it's sort of like, should this be a no blaster zone? I don't know.
Is there such a thing?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, are you going to have blaster-proof windows, and then you lose that lovely window, and you know you want an open space.
Yeah,
because you got to keep your stormtroopers happy.
I just imagine that the core of people building these things are probably just as motivated as these stormtroopers are. You know, they're just there for, you know. Nobody believes in the cause, it sounds like. They're just there because there ain't nothing better to do.
Well, and there's a paycheck involved, you know.
Right, and there's no other structure that affords them a paycheck.
And let's be clear here. It's a government project, which means lowest
That's
bidder.
True. You're right.
You know? So went to the lowest bidder, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, whether it's, you know, Watu and Company or the Hutt brothers, you know,
Right.
Whoever got the contract underbid everybody else, you know. And then, you know, maybe there's some skimming off the top and all that kind of stuff, as you do, you know.
Probably a considerable amount, considering how corrupt the Empire is.
And they say, well, we'll put that blaster-proof glass in here. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's like, just put in the regular glass, you know. What are the odds someone's going to shoot a blaster down here?
Come on. You going to shoot a blaster inside?
Exactly.
About a blaster-free zone?
Yeah. Oh, goodness. But
I would love to see like a show, like a comedy sitcom based on the bureaucracy of Star Wars. Like people that just work in offices that design these sorts of things. Like a paper company inside the world of Star Wars. You know?
Yes. You don't see that, but I think it was actually, was it a Ben Stiller show bit where they were doing the stormtroopers? It was like cops, but with stormtroopers.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's funny.
It was a good series, but
I gotta find that.
You can
That
find it on
sounds
YouTube. So, like, look up Troopers. It's there.
That's funny.
Anyway, getting back to this story. Yeah, I mean,
So the ships show up and help them escape at the end there.
Yeah. And someone was complaining because they said, how could you fit 3 people in the back of one of those T-10s, you know? Yeah. But as I pointed out to someone else, they were modified for hauling trash, so they clearly had scooped out the back. So there would be more space, you know? So, that's my headcanon on it. Friend said there wasn't an astromech, space in there. I don't know. I remember R2 being in Luke's snowspeeder, but you know, it's been a long time since I saw Empire Strikes Back. So,
yeah. Now that you mention it, they did seem kind of small. That is an interesting question. Yeah, it seemed like a 1-seater kind of race car sized.
Yeah. Well, if I recall correctly, they were 2-seaters because there was a navigator and a driver, or maybe I think they were
Leia's not bigger than a piece of luggage, you know?
So, no. Like Leia, like you could get Leia and
if there's another seat, they're fine. If there's one other seat, they're fine. She could sit in his lap. She's
it's the 3 of them. That's the thing. It's getting the Imperial, because you got the Imperial in one, and Obi-Wan, and Leia, and the pilot. Yeah, exactly. It was a tight squeeze, especially since they decided to blow up the other guy.
Yeah.
By throwing a battery at him. As if this was a Yankees game. A lot of people died again. Very high death counts in this show. You know? I mean, and it's war, you know?
Right.
That's what war is. People die, you know? Even the good guys die. Even the guy who came here.
Stormtroopers don't count, obviously, but
no, the Stormtroopers count. Every single one of those guys. They got a home. They got kids.
I'm sure they do.
It's a union job, you know. Even quite frankly, you know, they were just guys that got hired by the Empire. You know, got a good gig. You know, working the Inquisitor place, and you know. You think it's a nice, solid gig? Who's going to come and attack here? And of course,
it's a blaster-free zone, for crying out loud.
Yeah, exactly. But then of course, as they're flying away, after the third sister, Reeve, I believe her name is, she says, I placed a tracker on them, and then you see Delilah's eyes. I glow red to let you know she's evil now. Bum, bum, bum. Because that's the rule. If your robot turns evil, have their eyes be red. Right. Any final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozz?
No, it was pretty decent.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. It was better than the first couple.
Okay. Is it growing on you?
Average. I mean, yeah, it's all right. It's not something like I go, oh man, I can't wait to see the next Obi. You know, it's like, oh, next Obi-Wan's up. Let's see what that's about.
Yeah. Well, there's only 2 episodes left.
Yeah.
So they may kick it up into high gear, you know?
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed we haven't gotten more of young Luke. Because I was kind of hoping for that. You know, a little more Owen Lars and Holgren.
Yeah.
You know, little Jar Jar here and there, you know.
Yeah.
There's all these things that, you know, you were hoping for, but we'll see what we get. All right.
I'm just waiting for the return of the Mandalorian. That's when it's going to get good again.
Yeah, it's coming, my friend. It is coming.
Even Boba Fett was okay. I hope the Ahsoka series is good. But seeing Boba Fett, now seeing this, I feel like there's a certain level that they're comfortable with these side shows.
Yeah.
And then when the Mandalorian comes back, they get, you know, the real writers or the real directors to come.
Well, you know,
or maybe with the big budgets. But I thought this one had a big budget. It looks like they squandered a lot of it.
Well, you know, I think the biggest problem for Obi-Wan is that they have to fit in the canon. You know, it's a tight squeeze to fit in that canon.
Why even do the show then? Like, what was so pressing?
Because it's a story to tell, and people like Ewan McGregor, and you know, and it's Obi-Wan, and you can build lore, and they've built. Maybe
that's where all the budget went. It was to pay Ewan McGregor. Maybe that's why they didn't expect it to be a series.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to see. You know, I mean, Ewan McGregor, he's a working actor. I don't know what he's done aside from.
I think I think he's a phenomenal actor. I think he's one of the best.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying he's not a good actor. I'm just saying, you know, I don't know how much he works. You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know I don't remember the last time I saw it starring Ewan McGregor. You know.
Yeah.
He probably does a lot. You know, he probably does a lot of really great films that you have to be super talented for. You know, and those are fun to do, but they don't always pay the bills. But hey, you know, it's good to have Obi-Wan in your back pocket. And you can just say, yeah, we'll do 6 of those, and I'm going to go do like 6 indie films after that, and then I'll do 6 more next year. You know, and that's
cool.
The circle of life, my friend.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, if anyone else there has thoughts about Ewan McGregor's work as an actor or anything about the Star Wars franchise and how they can make money off of Star Wars, why don't you write us a little old email and send it to CapesandLunatics@gmail.com. That's CapesandLunatics, spelled out, all one word, at gmail.com. And you know what? If you were like, writing with letters, that's hard. Can't I just say what I want? Yes, you can, by calling us and leaving a voice message at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And if you're saying that's all well and good, but I want to give you money, I want to buy stuff like t-shirts and aluminum mugs. For that, you just have to go to Linktree, that's linktr.ee/CapesandLunatics, and see all of our merch, all of our shows, all of our Patreons, where you can give us money and get free exclusive content like topless movie reviews and our countdown of the worst superhero movies of all times in brackets. This week, Superman 3 versus Superman 4. All right.
Okay, and Superman 3 is one of the greatest movies of all time. And I'll stop
agreed.
Right
there. Okay. Yeah, exactly. But, you know, you have to, people make the votes and we have to fight them. And
I can understand what everybody says. Maybe it's just because it holds a certain place in my heart. But that movie is brilliant.
I agree. Gus Gorman makes the film. Richard
One
Pryor.
of the greatest performances ever.
Exactly. All right, Mozz. If people want to reach out and talk to you and just be your buddy like I am, how can they find you?
They can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our mothers and fathers once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet things when I feel like it. At Charlie Esser, but CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle. For what?
For quality. Bing!
Thank you, Mozz. All right, you scurvy dogs, you've come to the end of the Dune Sea and the wide Sargassus of the Internet. We have sailed full stream, and now we rest. But come back next week, or once again, shove off and go full stream ahead. Arr.